RAILA TV. Shikilia. Shikilia. Yodhurwa. Yodhurwa. Yodhurwa.
An afternoon to you. My name is Olive Burrows, taking over from Mashirima Kapombe. This is the English portion of the commentary this afternoon. As you see those gathered on your screens at MAMBOLEO grounds in KISUMU, they're celebrating the life of RAILA ODINGA, them having been given the occasion to view his body before it is flown to Bondo. As you can see, there are thousands who are gathered there with the intent of bidding him farewell following his demise on October the 15th, Wednesday, the October of 15th. He had made provisions in his will to be laid to rest within 72 hours, and that explains why we had the funeral service yesterday as well. There's a lot of activity in his home in Bondo as well, aside from what you see on your screen in Kisumu. We have Sam Gituku there. We expect at any moment now a statement to be issued by his the Nairobi Senate is also the Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement, and that is Edwin Sifuna, is also already on ground. Among those who have visited the home to give their condolences include the Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, and he arrived with a number of bulls. So there is a lot of activity happening in Western Kenya, Nyanza, as relates to RAILA ODINGA this afternoon. And let's get a sense of what the mood is in Bondo. All right, we are working on getting you that sound, but as I mentioned, we do have some Gituku on ground, and we also have Emmanuel To as well as Seth Olale, Stephen Leto at the Mamboleo grounds in Kisumu, and that is ahead of the burial tomorrow on Sunday, where there is expected to be service followed by a private burial ceremony. In fact, the Ministry of Information has made public a website, and that is railaodinga.go.ke, railaodinga.go.ke. When you visit the website, there are a number of tributes, including that which was posted by the 44th president of the United States, and that is Barack Obama. He posted it a little less than 12 hours ago, recognizing Raila Odinga as a statesman. So there's a collection of tributes that have come from all over the world. Also, you will find there the funeral program that details what will transpire tomorrow as well. The thousands who are at the Mamboleo grounds are rushing against time because by 3 p.m. his body is meant to be flown to Bondo, where it will spend the night, and that is ahead of the events that are scheduled for tomorrow. And I'm informed that they have extended the period for viewing, and as the details evolve, I will keep you up to date. But so a number of tributes when you visit railaodinga.go.ke. From several world leaders, and in Bondo we are seeing a gathering of ODM leaders. We have Millie Odhiambo, we have the governor Homa Bay, who is Gladys Wanga, and she's also the chair of ODM present in Bondo. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement, Edwin Sifuna, in Bondo as well. I did mention earlier that we heard from the Trans Nzoia Governor, George Natembea, who recognized Raila's status as a man celebrated across, not only on the continent, but across the globe. And we expect at any moment now a statement from Mama Ida Odinga ahead of the burial scheduled for tomorrow. Last night we had from his brother Oburu Odinga, who gave details of what can be expected today and tomorrow. And he did call for peace, asking people to, as they celebrate Raila Odinga's life, to behave with decorum, and called insistently for peace. The same call was made by Mama Ida Odinga yesterday during the funeral service that we had from several leaders, including former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who got a rousing reception and spoke about the time he shared outside the glare of the cameras and in private with Raila Odinga. There was tributes which were made by his children, as well as by his brother and Oburu Odinga, as well as Mama Ida Odinga. And she did promise that she would speak more on their life together tomorrow, but she is expected now to give a statement ahead of that. We've seen the Siaya governor, James Orengo, say that only close friends and family will be allowed in the home as they prepare to lay to rest the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Chosen generation, we've been called for to show His excellence. Hey, all I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation, we've been called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, for I know who I am. I know who God says I says I am, where he says I'm at. I know who I am. I know who God says I am. What he says I am, where he says I'm at. I know who I am. I'm working in power. I'm working miracles. I live a life of faith. For I know who I am. I'm working in power. I'm working miracles. I live a life of faith. For I know who I am.
I need y'all to run down here. Come on, let me see you. Come on, Jehovah's here. Say it. In you. Say it, y'all. I trust it. How to do it, y'all? I believe. Say it, say it. I believe. I trust. Come on. Oh, Lord. Where you at? Come on, come on. I believe. Say it. You want the God of miracles. You want the God of wonder.
All right, those pictures there were of the MAMBOLEO grounds in KISUMU, a celebration of RAILA ODINGA's life, and thousands have thronged there to see him off as they view his body. And there's so many people that the Principal Secretary for Interior, Raymond Omolo, has indicated that the initial timeline, which was to expire at 3 p.m., may be extended, and therefore they will fly his body to Bondo. On your screens there, we also have Mama Ida Odinga. Let's take a listen.
The members of the press, say a few things about that today. That I live in many parts of the world. The way I'm saying this is because I've received condolence messages from many, many parts of the world. And tomorrow I hope I'll be able to read for you. Now I want to appeal to our people. I want to appeal to our people that we must mourn Raila in peace. It is a solemn occasion. It is not an occasion of confusion. Things work better if we do it in a solemn manner. I want to appeal. I've been to many international funerals. I was in the funeral of Nelson Mandela. I was in the funeral of Mandela. I was in the funeral of President Magufuli here in Tanzania. It's okay. It is only through the still voice that you can go to hear and understand one another. Now, I want to say something small also in the how lock Liel Mar Moro Mar understand no display Yakanyicha Ginity. Mangay, Waduto, we've lost Wito Yatendwa. I've lost my husband. My children have lost their father. People have lost their brothers. And many Kenyans have lost their loved one. The world have lost their loved one. In this home, Edalaka Kawono, one job more Zimbabwe, one job more South Africa, one job more Southern Sudan, one General Olusegun Obasanjo, more Nigeria, one job more Kunimo Pogori. So, Jimadwa hair, Nimondogine, an image mag job my work. Oh, and Gimutimoni, Nikachagan Kiagi, again Ginoli. Togi Benegin knowledge, Niki Omio Giapo never can see. Gagi Biro Karkai. Onego Kikwanis, Timbe Moko, Makielo, insecurity. Well, Nis Timbe Moko, Mami Yoji, Paran Wana Jok, my useless.
All right, we're hearing there from Ida Odinga, Raila Odinga's widow, and she has called on those who are mourning Raila or celebrating his life to do so respectfully, making comparisons to international funerals she's attended, such as that of Magufuli and Mandela. And she says they were conducted with decorum, and so she has asked that the same respect be extended to her late husband. She's also spoken about the messages of condolence that she's received from across the globe. As I mentioned earlier, one of the latest ones has come from the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, he's posted his tribute to his social media platforms. But the Ministry of Information has compiled those tributes on railodinga.go.ke, and they include messages, including from the Prime Minister of India. But this is what Barack Obama had to say. Raila Odinga was a true champion of democracy, a child of independence. He endured decades of struggle and sacrifice for the broader cause of freedom and self-governance in Kenya. Time and again, I personally saw him put the interests of his country ahead of his own ambitions. Like few other leaders anywhere, he was willing to choose a path of peaceful reconciliation without compromising his core values. Through his life, Raila Odinga set an example, not just for Kenyans, but across Africa and around the world. I know he will be missed. Michelle and I send our deepest condolences to his family and to the people of Kenya. So just earlier from the Bondo home of Raila Odinga, we heard from his widow, Ida Odinga, who has called for decorum, called for peace. She did so yesterday during the funeral service at the Nyayo Stadium. The same call was made by his brother, Oburu Odinga, who called for peace and a respectful remembrance of Raila ahead of his burial tomorrow. And speaking of the family, I do have with me in studio a gentleman who is a friend of the family. His name is Rune Engstrom. He's a Norwegian entrepreneur in the tourism sector in Kenya and South Africa. But Rune, you met Raila Odinga in 1991. But before we go back in history, you told me you spoke to him just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, some weeks ago, because I told him I'm coming to Kenya. I don't remember, some weeks ago. And he just told me to call him when we reach here. So, well, that will never happen now.
So you were coming to Kenya and you spoke on the phone.
Yeah, before I came.
What was his mood?
No, he was in a good mood as always. I mean, the last time I met him was at Carnival, where we had a nice evening there, December 2 years ago, where we sat and just spoke about the past and what we are doing now and things like that.
All right. Just, being in Kenya and witnessing, the funeral service yesterday, the viewing of his body on our screens today in MAMBOLEO, KISUMU, is it the kind of send-off you imagined for your friend?
No, it's actually bigger. I see the whole Kenya is mourning and everybody misses him. And this is world news. Like next week, I got a message now. Norwegian newspaper is sending people down there to interview people and see where Kenya is and where it's going onwards without Raila.
So he was a figure that was bigger than Kenya,
yeah.
and his influence, in your opinion, cut across the continent and across the world.
Yeah. What I spoke with him about lately when I was in tourism, what is Pan-African tourism and intra-African tourism, that we are working hardly on in our company, Destination Africa. And there's so much to do in Africa for Africans if the visa regimes are relaxed and more airlines opening, things like that. And that was a passion for Raila, to open Africa for Africans.
All right, so perhaps you can tell us what your first encounter was with Raila. As I understand it, you met Raila through Ruth Odinga?
Yeah. Back in 1988, I was out on town in Oslo, and I met two Kenyan girls. One became my wife, Josephine Simio from Kitale, and her friend Ruth Odinga. They were both students. And I later married Josephine, and we got a son, where Ruth is the godmother, Thomas Bolivia.
All right, so you're family friends?
Yeah. And then we were in touch because Ruth had Sankara, who was the same age as our son. And also Ruth and her husband that time, Nana, they got a job in Gambia, if I remember correct. And they took my son with them to Gambia at 6 months, a year old or something. And then in 91, Ruth reached out because I knew nothing about this politics or anything. They were just friends. That her brother had to leave Kenya, and this was before he left. And if I could assist in Oslo to receive them, because it was so secret that very few people even in Norway knew about it. So he needed some safe refugee there. So when he arrived, he came with passports that were issued by the Norwegian ambassador to Uganda. Because those days it was handwritten passports. So he just took them out of the safe, and nobody knew even that those passports were issued, Norwegian passports, for Raila and Mama Aida and the 4 children. And then they came to Norway. I received them in the airport. And then a couple of days later, Minister of Foreign Affairs came into the picture. Because then it's public that he was out of Kenya.
All right. So tell us about your first encounter with Raila.
I saw a man that was happy to have his family safe outside Kenya after all he'd gone through here in Kenya, and to be a voice abroad because nobody knew what would happen boy those days. He could have turned every way, and he wanted, or the family wanted, even to be out of the country to be if something went wrong in Kenya.
So Ruth had reached out to you to receive him. Yeah. So did you meet him at the airport?
Yeah, we met at the airport. I went to my home in Oslo, and they spent, if I remember correct, 2 nights or something before they got a place to stay by the Norwegian government.
So he stayed in your home?
Yeah.
For 2 days?
Yeah, 2 days. I don't remember exactly. No, the whole family.
Okay.
The whole family.
So RAILA, his wife?
RAILA, the wife,
Mhm.
and the 4 children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you hosted
All of them. Yeah, yeah.
all of them. And what was that like for you? You said you were not too familiar with the political happenings in Kenya at the time. You know, did you get a crash course in who this man is?
Not really. We received them just as a brother of a friend who needed help. So it was only later I started realizing his position because I was just helping out a friend. So I didn't know who he was really or the background of what was going on here. And I knew a little because that period was quite hectic because it was also the time Koigi Wawamwere was kidnapped in Uganda, the Norwegian embassy was closed down, and NORAD, the Norwegian aid system, was kicked out of Kenya, everybody. So it was quite tense.
All right. So, what was your first impression of the man? On because they say what a first impression lasts 30 seconds.
No, it's a very peaceful man, a family man, and Raila as a private person is so far away from what you see on TV. He's a humble family man and likes to sit and talk and laugh with his friends and family. So he's a very different. For me, he was a very different person than the one you see on TV in these political rallies in Kenya and things like that.
A private man, a family man.
Yeah.
How did you come to that conclusion? Is it that he carried himself with his family?
Yeah, he was just quiet like any normal person without any special position or anything. And we started going, and he never looked for fancy places or anything. He just asked us to take him where the Kenyans are, so he could sit and have a beer and laugh with Kenyan friends and Norwegian friends of the Kenyans and things like that. So we went out a lot in Oslo, and then he started traveling and to meet world leaders. And but from day one, it was clear that he was not looking for any asylum or anything. He wanted to go back to Kenya and continue the struggle.
Okay. Why do you say that?
No, because he never spoke about looking for a place to stay or anything. He was there temporarily. He wanted to go home as soon as possible.
So tell us, in how do you maintain a friendship over that period of time? Many of us we struggle to maintain friendships.
It's not been a daily friendship. It could have been years between, and then more regularly. And I kept in touch with Ruth, and Mr. Akini was also in Norway for some period. Then I met him here several times. So it's been on and off for many, many years.
So there was no point in time where he declined to take your phone call over that period. He was always
no, but
happy to speak.
sometimes, of course, he was busy.
Okay.
But he called back. It could be an hour later, a week later, because he was busy all his life.
Okay. So do you now? At the time, you said you were not too keen on the politics. You were just helping out a friend. At what point did you come to appreciate who this man was to Kenya?
No, I appreciated it. A man fighting for democracy and Pan-Africanism. Okay, I'm Norwegian and I'm working with Kenya and South Africa with tourism. And his words about Pan-Africanism is what led me and my partner here, Duncan Morioki, to looking at African tourism. Why should Africans travel to Europe all the time or America and things like that when there's so much to do in Africa? But the problem has always been like visa regimes and air prices, things like that. But it's loosening up, like Kenya has done well now with opening the borders. Like all Africans can come here, and hopefully South Africa follows. But I mean, Kenyans can go to South Africa now without any visa or anything, just go.
So in your conversations with him, he was an advocate of Pan-Africanism.
Oh yes, open borders for Africans. I mean, we have the same in Europe with Schengen. That you, as a Norwegian, I can go anywhere I want in Europe, or if you as a Kenyan have a visa for Schengen, you can, nobody asks you where you are going as soon as you are inside Europe.
All right. So we'll just cross over to the home in Bondo, and I'll ask you if you have occasion to visit. But earlier we heard from Ida Odinga, who's spoken appeals to mourners as she did yesterday to maintain peace and to respectfully celebrate the life of RAILA Odinga. Those are the pictures that are coming out of Bondo at this time. Sam Gituku is on ground, and so on your screen we have the MAMBOLEO grounds in Kisumu, and then we have the the RAILA ODINGA home in Bondo. And so an appeal for peace, an appeal to respectfully celebrate the life of RAILA ODINGA. And as you can see on the MAMBOLEO side, there is a rush to accommodate all those who've turned out to view RAILA ODINGA's body. Initially, the exercise was to end at 3 p.m., but the Principal Secretary for Interior, Raymond Omolo, has indicated that they may extend that period in the interest of accommodating as many people as possible. And for that reason, instead of his body being taken to his Bondo home by road, his body will be flown to Bondo ahead of the burial tomorrow. RAILA's widow, Ida Odinga, has also spoken of the condolence messages she has received from across the globe. And if you visit railaodinga.go.ke, you'll just get a sense of the extent of Raila Odinga's impact as a Pan-Africanist, as we've been discussing, and also farther than that, as far as India, for instance, the Indian Prime Minister stating that he is deeply saddened by the passing of his dear friend and former Prime Minister of Kenya, Mr. Raila Odinga, describing him as a towering statesman and cherished friend of India. All right. We also have, yesterday we also had the spouse of Garang, Rebecca, who was also present. And right now in Bondo, she's in the company of Mrs. Morgan Changirai, Elizabeth Macheke. And so you get a sense of just how much of an impact that Raila had on the continent as a proponent of Pan-Africanism, and also much further than that as an advocate for democracy, justice, human rights, as well as more locally devolution in Kenya. Some of this was elucidated by former President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, who described him as a friend, a brother, and who went on to share what their discussions were like when they were away from the glare of the camera, and when they were just sitting down to drink, and I quote, uji. And just, we've heard from my guest in studio this afternoon, Rune Engstrom, that he was a man of the people, that when he was in Oslo, he asked to, and he had sought exile in Oslo 1991, that he was a simple guy, and he asked to go where the Kenyans are, and he was not a fancy man at all, and had every intention to come back, return to Kenya. And just his impact on, being a proponent of Pan-Africanism, that has always been who he is. And he, it just came up in conversation. Rune, you tell us?
Yeah, no, and another example later, when he was in position in Kenya, when he came to Norway, Raila was never a man of fancy protocol and things like that. Like I just spoke to another Kenyan in Norway, who's a family friend, Peter Winoranyako, and like he said, Raila was not interested in fancy things. He finished his meetings and then asking, where are the Kenyans? Let's go and have a drink in some local bar or something. Nothing fancy. He just wanted to meet Kenyans and sit on and talk and laugh and listen to their stories.
And did he share a little bit about his political struggles in the country?
Of course, I learned about it later when I started learning to know him and the family. And also the last talk I had with him, it's that picture, you see me and Raila and my friend Dr. That book, Doing Life with Mandela, My Prisoner, My Friend. That was a plan we had to bring that man to Kenya, because the guy who wrote that book was more or less forced by Mandela to write it. He was then Mandela's prison guard on Robben Island, and later became a close friend. So we were planning to have a conversation between the prison guard representing originally the apartheid regime as a man of the system, and Raila as a political prisoner. But it was delayed, and it just shows that you never know where life takes you. Don't delay things. Tomorrow it can be too late. But you never know, and it goes the same for family with elder people and things like that. You never know how much time you have. So don't wait until tomorrow with things you can do today.
All right. Right. I'm just curious. Back in 1991, did RAILA explain why the choice of Norway in seeking exile?
And Norway was quite close with Kenya. And why Norway, I will believe, is partly because his sisters Ruth and Akini were in Norway as students. So it was a natural place for him to go. Because Norway and things like that.
Okay, and did he tell you a little bit about that journey? Like I said, when he landed, he arrived with his family. Even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Norway was not in the know.
No, because everybody was scared of leaking. Because, you know, Moi had his spies in Norway, like every dictator, they have their spies among people in exile and things like that. So everything was very hush-hush. But the second he landed in Norway, there was no more secrecy or anything. Then everything was out in the open.
So he made his way from Kenya to Uganda to Norway. Did he tell you what that experience was like?
That experience I learned about first at Carnival 2 years ago, when he explained how he escaped Kenya in the middle of the night in a small canoe in terrible weather and risking his life in a small boat crossing Lake Victoria.
So you discussed that with him?
No, he just told his story. There was never a discussion or anything. He just openly shared his story. And mainly because of my friend Duncan Morioki. We didn't know him personally. But like Duncan said, of course, I feel like I've known the man all my life. That's the kind of guy RAILA was.
So he was happy to sit with you and Duncan?
Yeah. Because what happened, I sent him a message, I'm coming to Kenya. And then after I arrived, or the day I arrived, he told me where I am. And then I said I'm going to Carnival because it was the 50th anniversary of the mushrooms. So I was going there.
You're a fan?
Yeah, I like it. And another friend of mine in Kenya, Vicky Kihoro, and her daughter Patricia Kihoro, they were part of organizing this thing. So we went there, and then RAILA said, I'm coming. And he said, call when you arrive. Because I can't, like with his position, he couldn't start loitering all over Carnival looking for us. And then I called him and said, I'm here, we have a table. Okay, meet me at the door. He was waiting in his car outside. Then we walked in and we sat there and laughed and spoke for a few hours. Then he was traveling to Washington early morning. So he said, oh, I have to go home. I have a plane to catch.
What time was this?
This was late in the evening. It was December 2023. So it was, I don't remember the date, but it was the 50th anniversary of the mushrooms.
Okay. So is he a man who enjoyed music? We had something yesterday, and the Jamaican Farewell by Harry Belafonte.
Yeah. No, he liked his music, and he liked not huge parties or anything fancy, but the way I know him, just sitting, having a drink with friends and family, and just like any ordinary man. He never made anything out of it when he sat down with people. We also met in Nairobi a few times back in the days in, what was it called? One of these Nyamachoma houses on Milimani Road, Sagret or something like that. Where we just sat and drank and ate Nyamachoma. Nobody knew who was hiding in that corner.
So he liked his Nyamachoma?
Oh yes, and his drinks.
So what was he partial to? Was he a whiskey man or?
If I remember correct, it was whiskey, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. So, so when you, just how did you receive the news that RAILA ODINGA had passed away?
First from a colleague that sent me a message very early morning. Is this true? From social media. And then while I was reading it, I got a telephone from Norway, from Peter Wino, Rangenia. And he told me, whatever rumors you hear, they are true. And this was around 6:30 in the morning, local time, that he had just passed away. And Peter knew I was here, so he said, it's true.
And did you reach out to Ruth?
Yeah, I sent her a message. I didn't reply, but I sent a message to Akini. She replied, so I guess there's no point calling any of them now this weekend or anything. So I guess I'll talk with them next week.
And how did it... You had spoken just a couple of weeks...
2, 3, 4 weeks earlier.
And you were to meet up, and then now hearing he's no longer with us. Just what memory played in your mind?
Mostly just happy days and laughs and things like that. Personal memories about meeting him, sitting with him. And of course, that last meeting at Carnival where we discussed not discussed, but spoke about opening borders in Africa so that it's easy for Africans to travel. And I mean, right now I had 60 Kenyans down in Cape Town, and they were impressed by meeting Christo Brandt and learning these personal stories. Because there's so many stories in Africa, not only lions and elephants and good wine in South Africa. There's so much more.
So about Kweki also seeking asylum in Norway. Was that after RAILA?
That was before RAILA. And he was in Norway, then he was in Uganda when he was kidnapped by Moist forces in Uganda and taken to Kenya. And that was the background of the closing of the embassy and where all the Norwegians were deported from Kenya.
And do you think the RAILA's choice of Norway could have been informed by Kweki's experience?
Could be. And there's a Norwegian journalist, Nina Hansen, who was actually working for The Nation that time. Who was the one who broke the news, and she's coming to Kenya on Tuesday. Partly holiday, but also for Norwegian media to cover Kenya. Today, how will it be after RAILA? Who is going to control Kenya the way he could just open his mouth and people listen to him? So Nina is coming here on Tuesday.
Did that amaze you? Because here we call him, you've seen even in several newspaper headlines, the enigma.
Yeah.
That the fact that he was able to engender those feelings, the passions. Because you say this is even bigger than you imagined.
Yeah.
The send-off.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like I spoke to people in South Africa today, people we work with, and they're watching this on TV, and they say this is bigger than Mandela. Like how South Africa reacted to Mandela's death. He said this is bigger.
Really?
Yeah. The way Kenya reacts to RAILA. And they said this is unbelievable.
So did you after he stayed in your home for 2 days or so?
Yes, I don't remember exactly.
Okay, a couple of days.
Yeah, and then he came, of course, with the family later for dinners and things like that. But then they had an apartment in Oslo where the family stayed in peace.
Okay. So how long do you know was he in Oslo?
Was it 8, 9 months or something? But he was traveling a lot. He traveled the world with Mama Ida and meeting world leaders and getting support so that he could go back to Kenya without more touching him.
Okay, and you track his career after that?
Then I started following, of course. And we saw the elections and things like that. And I mean, it was a defining moment for Kenya when he when the opposition was split in 10 parties or something, when he chose Kibaki. Then who should talk against him? Then this game was over.
Did you discuss, when you met him, his presidential ambitions, his vision?
No, we never spoke about anything like that. Only private, personal things.
How did he strike you as a husband and a father? Because you said he struck you as a family man.
Yeah. He loved his family.
What gave you that impression?
Not the way he was talking about them with passion. But I mean, when we went out together, it was just 2 boys going out, talking whatever we were talking.
All right. So tell me a little bit about Ruth Odinga's experience. There's a time she wanted to come back to the country and she asked you to assist?
No, she didn't directly ask, but that was the same period when the Norwegians were kicked out of Kenya. But there was so much focus on...
and this followed RAILA?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the timeline here. But she wanted to come to Kenya with Sankara, the son. She was a bit worried what would happen to her in immigration. So I don't want to say I can travel. I guess they're more interested in a Norwegian in Kenya right now. What is he doing here? Which was right. I got a million questions. He would just walk through.
Come along with her.
Like people, is it dangerous to be Norwegian? No, I said, what can they do? The whole world is with here at Kenya now. They don't need more trouble. Maybe they arrest me and deport me. What else can they do?
You know, you talked about the diplomats having been asked to leave. Were you worried?
No. Not really.
From the beginning,
It was 2 or 3 years or something when Norwegian affairs were handled by the Danish embassy. But I mean, normal Norwegians here, like me, all the business people were not affected. This was political games. So it was the embassy and NORAD that were closed. But Norwegians could travel. Nobody really asked questions.
You know, how has that defined? You know, the Koigi seeking exile in Norway, RAILA seeking exile in Norway. In your opinion, has it defined the relationship between Kenya and
Strengthened
Norway?
it, at least after democracy. It has strengthened it. Like the guy I was talking about earlier, Peter Wino, he was one of the student leaders in '86. So when it was the crackdown on the university, and he went into exile in Uganda. But then after Koigi was arrested or kidnapped, they felt it was not safe in Uganda anymore, and they were offered refugee status in Norway. So a lot of them came to Norway, of those students. Some have stayed and some have gone back home. Peter is still around there, traveling up and down to Kenya all the time.
Right. So your business interests in Kenya, you know, was that informed by your relationship with the ODINGAs?
Not originally, because we worked like everybody else in this nation, Africa, that we worked to getting clients from Europe, clients from America, clients from God knows where. But then after talking to him at Carnival, when he spoke so passionate about Pan-Africanism, I started looking at it as who is working in the Kenya market to actually sell South Africa, or in South Africa to sell Kenya. Because there's so much to do. And you don't need visas, and it's very affordable compared to traveling and struggling to get this Schengen visa or US visas and things like that. And we're working closely with Kenya Airways. So that is something that can really take off. There's so, like Kenya has, there's so much to do in South Africa with wine and spa and shopping and everything.